Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2019 Riga FIDE Grand Prix. It's Shakhriyar Mamedyarov versus Maxime Vachier Lagrave. This is game 1 of the classics and it is the final round, obviously, as this is the finals. So it's a really interesting game. We're gonna really enjoy checking it out. Well, I hope. But before we check out the game, I would just like to mention that a further update has been made on the agadmator chess clock. So now it is fully released. It is no longer in beta. So if you were one of the beta testers, you are welcome to leave the beta, as now you will be able to give a rating. You will be able to write a comment in the Google Play Store, and you know, if you feel like it, if you enjoyed the clock and everything that has been updated, as a lot of you have really sent a lot of emails on what to improve. You know, just if you feel like it, leave a comment, leave a you know, a rating, 3 star, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever you feel the app you know, deserves. And well, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. And you know, all in all, just update your chess clock. And getting back to this game, before we check out the actual game, we do have some nice photos. So here it is. All the photos are compliments of Nikki Riga, official photographer of the FIDE Grand Prix. There you have it. First move being made by this gentleman here. Also a bonus question: who amongst you can identify the gentleman? You know, feel free to you know, enlighten everyone in the comments. And also here we have a very nice photo of Maxime. He doesn't like that the d4 pawn isn't perfectly centered, so he's gonna you know, just fix that, and he's not sorry about it either. So let's just check it out. Mamedyarov opens with d4, like you've just you know, seen on the photo. Knight to f6, we have c4, g6, and knight to c3, and d5. Well, not e, but the d5, and we have the Grunfeld Defense. So if you remember, we covered the game not so long ago in the Grandchester Zagreb edition that has been played well, not all that long ago. Maxime tried the Grunfeld Defense against Magnus Carlsen, but Magnus Carlsen really unleashed his bishop pair from hell, and in the end he was able to prevail. So here, obviously, Maxime doesn't mind that he lost the game with his Grunfeld Defense against the world champion, as like I said, alongside Peter Svidler, Maxime Vachier Lagrave is considered one of the greatest you know, players of the Grunfeld today. So we have c captures on d5, knight captures on d5, and now e4. We have knight captures on c3, b captures bishop to g7. And here, Magnus had knight to f3 on the board when he played against Maxime in Zagreb, but here Mamedyarov goes for queen to a4 check. We have queen to d7, blocking check, hoping to trade queens, but Mamedyarov isn't interested. We have bishop to a3, and now this is a very nice idea where Mamedyarov has plans of developing this bishop over to f4, bringing the rook to c1, and then putting pressure on the c file. But you will see what happens. We have b6 by Maxime, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop. We have knight to f3 now, finally, bishop to b7, and now just bishop to d3, defending d4 pawn. And here, Mamedyarov already had this position against Sebastian Bogner in Bundesliga 2015, where Maxime played pawn to c5. But here we have castles by Maxime. We have castles by Mamedyarov, and only now c5. So here the game again transposes into this game we already mentioned that Maxime played against Bogner in 2015, and there, well, there a different move was played. Rook to d1 was played there, but also some of the moves that are familiar in this position are bishop to e3 and bishop to g5. But the move Mamedyarov played, bishop to f4, is a new move, so it is as of move 12 that we have a completely new game, as this move has never been played before. So how do you deal with this? Well, you want to start developing. The bishop and the queen control the a6 square, so you can't really develop the knight via the a6 square. So you have to try and develop it via c6, although it's very hard. If you just develop it now, d5 will be very annoying here for black. So here, Maxime first decided to trade once with captures on d4, captures on d4, and only now knight to c6, but it's not a problem. d5, same as in the game against Magnus, and now this knight comes to a5. And in the game against Magnus, if you remember in Zagreb, this knight remained there for the rest of the game. At the end of the game, the knight played a few more moves, and that was it. So let's see how the knight will fare this game. Rook to c1. Like we said, this is the idea. The bishop on f4 now controls the c7 square. Mamedyarov wants rook to c7. So of course Maxime has to prevent this with rook f to c8. And now h3. Making some breathing room for the king, with e6 challenging white's strong center, and now of course as the queen and the bishop are guarding the d6 square, it is only natural that we will push d6 here. So on the next move, white of course wants to push e5. If black allows this, then it's just gonna be a slow painful death. So Maxime plays f6, he wants to prevent it, but Mamedyarov says nope, you haven't really prevented anything. He just pushes e5. And here if you capture, for example, captures, knight captures with an attack on the queen. Now if you move the queen, then even d7 is coming. So here if you capture, you get bishop captures, and here with this pawn here, rook to c7 is again a threat, and with white having the bishop pair, it will just be again a very slow and painful death for black. So your other option is to play f5, but then your bishop is just lame there on g7. It's, you know, it's supposed to be a dragon, and here it's not even a lizard. And well, white has a beautiful central pawn chain here. Rook to c7 will again be threatened at some point. You'll probably double rooks on the c file, and that's pretty much it. So here after e5, Maxime did the only thing he had left. He played bishop captures on f3. And now, of course, if you capture, you no longer have control over d5 square. Black will be able to capture here. So here, e captures on f6. With bishop captures on f6, and now g captures on f3. And now, again, rook to c7 is a threat. The bishop still controlling the c7 square. So here, MVL pushes e5. He wants, you know, the bishop to get out of here with bishop back to d2. And now, again, how do you play this? It's a very passive position to play. Probably what you want to do is just play something like king to h8, and then after, well, white defends the h3 pawn, then try to bring the knight back into the game. But now you're going to go bishop to a6, kick away the rook from the c file, rook to d8, and now bishop back to b5. And now you have a lot of pressure here on this knight. You're going to play rook c2, you're going to bring the other rook over to c1, and it's just going to be a very tough game for black to play. But this was probably the best course of action for Maxime. Maxime went rook captures on c1 first. He wanted to trade all of the rooks, but this doesn't really work in his favor. Rook captures on c1 with rook to c8, and now Mamedyarov just trades once again. With rook captures, queen captures, and now he plays king to g2. He wants to defend his h3 pawn, but also possible was just bishop to e4, because the threat of bishop to d5 check prevents you from capturing here. If you capture, then bishop d5 check, king g7, and queen to c3 just wins the game, because the bishop controls the h6 square. This bishop slices all the way here. Queen to c7 check is coming, and this king is getting checkmated. So there wasn't really a need to defend this h3 pawn here, but, you know, better safe than sorry. And it's not like black has any active ideas in the position. So king to g2 by Mamedyarov, and now bishop back to d8. The queen is now coming over to e6, and black will just have to try and hold this passed pawn here, and somehow at some point get this knight into the game. With bishop to e4, of course, preparing bishop to d5 check, and here black went queen to e6 as expected. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find, well, believe it or not, a winning move for white in this position. I'll give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations. You are an excellent threatener of winning the black queen. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen to d3 is the strongest idea here. f4 was also nice, but queen d3 just forces matters. Now bishop to d5 is the real threat. So here Maxime went king to g7 and just bishop to c3 by Mamedyarov. The threat is f4 now, as the pawn will not be able to capture, so you're just going to have an awesome pawn chain once again. Here, queen to f6 was played by Maxime, just preparing to meet f4 with queen captures on f4. But here, Mamedyarov played the classiest move possible. He played king to f1, and here Maxime Vachier resigned the game on move 28 in classical time format, which is really insane, as up until this point, Maxime Vachier knocked out everyone in the FIDE Grand Prix in the classical time format. So I don't think the rapids were even reached. And here, it's like Maxime doesn't want to leave the classical time format. He loses in 28 moves, which is really insane. Here, Mamedyarov created a beautiful Zugzwang. For example, if you try to find a move for black, you're going to have a very hard time doing so, because the knight can't move. All of the squares that the knight can use are covered by the queen, the pawn, and this bishop here slicing all the way here. You can't really move the dark square bishop. The pawn controls all of these squares. If you move the queen, then f4 is definitely coming. So what can you do? You could try something like king to f7, just try and get the king out of this ugly diagonal, but it doesn't help. Still f4. And now, after queen captures on f4, you get queen to d5 check, king to f8, and now bishop to d2, preparing for bishop to h8 check. And after queen to f7, bishop to h8 check, king to g8, but now just queen to a8. There are too many threats here. Queen captures here is a threat. Bishop d5 is a threat, winning the queen. So after queen e8, you're just going to play check. You have to go all the way to h8. And now bishop g5 just wins, decisive material and the game. On the other hand, after this king to f1 move, you could try something like h5, just, make a move. But still, after queen d5, all of the same ideas are happening. Now, bishop captures on e5 is a threat. You can't prevent this. And again, it will be the black's position will deteriorate by itself. Another thing, after king f1, well, you could try queen to h4 to maybe create some threats here with queen captures on h3, but it doesn't work. Just bishop captures on e5 check, king to h6, and now f4. The queen guards the h3 pawn, and everything will just continue falling apart for black. So of course, Maxime knew this. After king to f1, what a beautiful way to to end the game. Might even use this as a thumbnail. I don't know. I probably will. So yeah, really an impressive showing by Mamedyarov, and it seems that although Maxime is the world's leading player in the Grunfeld now, it doesn't seem that it actually works against top players, because the bishop pair is just too strong. And this night, like we said, against Magnus, it played a move or two at the end of the game, but here it remained on a5. So I don't know if it's a really passive way to play the Grunfeld, but it seems the top players have found a way to refute the Grunfeld, at least for now. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, don't forget to update your agadmator chess clock. I would like to thank Jared Weiss, Thomas Pander, Troy Heerin, Chris Picard, and Tony Mowat Guitar for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the FIDE Grand Prix finals, continuing the Capablanca saga, and as usual, checking up on your suggestions. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.